I'm proud to say that I won a grant with dfinity, and nothing in this video should be taken as financial advice. Invincibility lies in the defense, the possibility of victory in the attack.
Two particular sets of attacks we're concerned about at this moment in time. One is criminal cyber attacks against the hospital chain. It had real impact. Rural clinics closed, some hospitals in 3 states turning away ambulances and canceling elective services. That's done by criminals, and the White House has pushed out guidelines on how to tackle that. Second set of attacks we're tracking is an increase by Iran in cyber attacks against 10 water systems in this country. And in a similar way, there are basic cybersecurity practices like changing default passwords and limiting administrator account access that could prevent those attacks being successful.
So the constant threat of malicious actors is growing in the world. The U.S. is being invaded, not with boots on the ground, but with skilled hackers who have found a way in without bloodshed. Cyber attacks on the U.S. have been increasingly at a rapid rate, and the rise of BRICS nations attempting to dethrone the dollar and cause panic in everyday Americans. This, in effect, could have a tremendous outcome on the U.S. economy, and the result has the potential to be disastrous.
And that would put you ahead of many other thinkers in the space. That's the first thing. The second thing is cyberspace by its very nature is the most international global domain there is. Even moving from one domestic place to another, you're going into space. Perhaps you're going to a friendly country. Perhaps you're going to a not so friendly country. The way we had divided up cyberspace between blue, us, red, the bad guys, and gray, everybody else in between, is a helpful theoretical construct. But what it really is a blur from darkish grayish red to grayish blue and back again. And even the simplest actions in cyberspace may traverse most, if not all, of that spectrum back and forth. And we have billions and billions of those happening every minute.
This is Tom Wingfield. He is a senior international defense researcher in the RAND's Department of Defense and Political Science. The internet today is global and vulnerable. With blockchain technology, we're going to see an internet that allows identity and will be able to accommodate authenticity of data, as well as a need-to-know basis. This means that new technologies will be able to reshape our internet into a safer tech stack. A tech stack that can't be corrupted unless every actor involved agrees to corrupt it.
Vaccine, and we ended up getting like $1.6 billion from the U.S. government. And so that kind of like, it blew us up, but it also came with a lot of like cybersecurity requirements to get that grant. And so I was tangentially involved in beefing up our cybersecurity. Through that process, I learned that there's no amount of money, there's no amount of expertise. And we had access to some of the best minds in the space. And yet we still could not guarantee that, that we could properly protect our IP and you know, our vaccine data and everything like that from the outside world. And so it kind of was this eye-opening wake up for me about how insecure the internet tech stack is. At that same time, I saw Dominic Williams, our chief scientist and founder, talking about how blockchain can actually be a solution for that. How it can be a reinvention of the tech stack of the internet, one with security, basically baked into each layer. And that just really caught my attention, and I really went down the ICP rabbit hole. And I don't know, was it so 3 years ago or 3 years later, I find myself working at dfinity.
Internet Computer Protocol, or ICP, differs significantly from typical cryptocurrencies, which function like secure ledgers. Think of them as like Excel sheets with mechanisms on the back end ensuring their accuracies with using checks and balances and incentive models. Unlike these, ICP uses subnets resembling decentralized cloud computing. To enhance security and reduce susceptibility to cyber attacks, a concern as 39% of businesses experience hacks in cloud systems where over 40% of the data is sensitive and only 45% of it is encrypted on an average. Centralized in nature, traditional cloud infrastructure contrasts with ICP's decentralized secure stack. ICP stands out as an open programmable platform enabling developers to create apps directly on the internet without configuring servers, databases, or payment interfaces, thus lowering entry barriers. Additionally, dfinity's middleware simplifies app development across various domains. So what does this mean? This means that ICP is more secure by design. You would have to attack every subnet, every computer within the subnet in order to break the code. But since it's decentralized, it's much harder to hack than it is for a centralized server to get hacked. Not to mention, they make it extremely easy for developers to build on ICP. And one of the things that venture capitalists are looking for is how many developers are working on one protocol. This is a chart that comes from Sentiment, and you could see over the past 3 years, there's slowly this uptick in developer that's steadily increasing. ICP showed a 94% increase in full-time developers over the last year. That's a 20x in developers to 120 in just the short term.
Kind of amazing how they've done that. And the U.S. government has said during the last 2 years, North Korea has largely funded its nuclear programs from its cyber attacks, its cryptocurrency attack. And just to give a sense of sort of how they accumulate so much money, just some of the big hits they've had, they had a $500 million hit against a Japanese firm called CoinCheck, $250 million in digital currency from a digital currency exchange. And then it was last year, $620 million from a network called Ronin. And that is still the largest crypto heist in the world today. So, all of this is very, very worrisome of the things that they have done. But even more scary is what if they did it all at once in a crisis of war leading up to, where if they started going after not only stealing military secrets, but if they get into infrastructure, how oil pipeline distribution. The South Korean intelligence has warned that they've gotten into computer systems which control the speed of trains in South Korea. They've also messed around with the GPS of airliners flying into Seoul's airports. But what if they were to do all of that at once during the crisis?
This is Bruce Klinger. He is the Senior Research Fellow for the Northeast Asia at the Heritage Foundation. He also spent 20 years at the CIA and the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency. Imagine a global cyber attack where countries rapidly deploy their attacks in a domino effect. Similar to a nuclear scenario in response, think tanks consider blockchain technology as a foundational element for a new internet. The transition from the current infrastructure to blockchain is characterized by public, open, permissionless systems is underway. In this emerging landscape, most web protocols will likely have an associated token, necessary for transactions within the protocol. The shift signals the formation of a new internet, relying on tokens for its functioning.
Well, it's certainly an act of warfare. I think that what they're doing, what China's doing, is they're setting these kind of cyber time bombs in our critical infrastructure, power plants, utilities, that they're looking to set off in whenever they please, really, but certainly in the event of a conflict with Taiwan. And the effect of these time bombs would be to incapacitate our infrastructure. And I think if we found physical bombs in our physical infrastructure, we would certainly call that an act of war. And I think that this level of seriousness needs to come here as well.
Is hacking into our infrastructure a preparation for war?
I think that it is a preparation for war. I think what China did in the past was more commercial type espionage. They were stealing our company's technology, intellectual property, et cetera. But now they've certainly escalated to a point where they are going after our defense systems, our critical infrastructure. And again, they're setting these cyber time bombs, lying in wait, and I think in preparation for potential conflict, certainly with us in Taiwan.
Infrastructure providers have found cyber threats in their software. This is the equivalent of a cyber time bomb. When activated, they will allow actors to take control of these systems. We're at a moment in time where new technology is proving itself and is being introduced while the vulnerabilities of the old technology is being demonstrated. Blockchain is going to be a pillar of the next internet. Companies dealing with anything critical will be mandated to use blockchain.
The president has made securing digital infrastructure an absolute priority. And there's a few parts to that, right? One part of that is tracking the threat, understanding who are the countries who are capable, what are the roles criminals are playing, what's financially driven crime, who are the countries harboring those individuals. That's one piece of it. So we really understand the threats we face as a country. The second piece of it is saying, what do we need to do to be most effective? There's the policy level. For example, the minimum cybersecurity practices that the administration has put in place for pipelines, for aviation, for rail, so that those sectors are doing the basics they need to do so that they can be confident their operations are safe online. And then there's the resources, the guidebooks, the fiscal resources that the administration has made available as well to help small and medium companies, state and local governments make the most of the resources they have to be safe as well. And then there's the international partnership. So last month, for example, the end of October, actually, we brought together 50 partners, 48 countries, Interpol, the International Police Force, and the European Union, talk about how we tackle the transnational cybercrime threat together. Things like how do we trace crypto, the payments, the ransom payments that are fueling criminal activity around the world? How do we identify the infrastructure and take it down? And how do we ensure that countries around the world who may be less capable know how to do forensics, know the best and the most effective cybersecurity practices? And finally, the role of tech companies in building more secure tech to make it easier to use that tech safely. So not only are we focused in understanding the threat, doing what we need to do at home with our partners, but also working around the world because it's such a transnational threat.
As more threats are found, the president has given orders for companies to upgrade their software to protect against these threats. There is a reason that government employees have shifted careers to blockchain in the crypto sector. There's a huge opportunity and many can see the writing on the wall. I recently spoke with Constellation's board members that come from the government sector, and this is what they had to say.
What was unique about this technology is the flexibility. I've been involved, like I said, with crypto and large infrastructures from the government and also in business environments. And frankly, what I have really locked into with this organization is that they've taken a proven technology in the cryptocurrency world and they've enhanced it and really leveraged a vision with it. And that vision actually has everything to do with securing real-time data content and actually leveraging that in the business world and also how we can use it in the government space.
The government is exploring blockchain technology because of its security purposes. Now, cyber attacks are very costly on everybody, but with using blockchain technology, you're seeing a reduction in costs and an increase in efficiency.
Constellation is a US-based blockchain company. So it provides the ability for them to interact and collaborate with the federal government in some, unique ways.
This stood out because Ripple is also a US-based company. I would think the preference for US financial institutions would be to have a US-based company handling most of their security and protocols.
Situations like that could arise.
I think there's some relation, but that's a separate risk. And we have to be very aware there are risks in our systems from cyber attacks. In that circumstance, as publicly revealed, it was a ransomware attack. And that ransomware attack disrupted a treasury clearing broker-dealer. And so the clearinghouse operated smoothly through that. But for that one clearing broker and its customers, they had to quickly find workarounds.
The traditional markets are more brittle than people realize. Broker-dealers are under attack. What if these systems were corrupt and there was something orchestrated to cause havoc in the treasury market? This certainly seems plausible with everything we heard. As time progresses and geopolitical tensions heat up, these are going to be honeypots for nation-state hackers to attack. Understand that our treasury market is the weakest it's been since our history. By having selling occur, we could see air pockets with no buyers, causing rates to shoot up drastically.
And then as sort of the banks got better at protection, then they moved to phase 4, which is cryptocurrency, and then which was even more lucrative. Phase 5 was these alternative currencies or decentralized financial sites. And then phase 6 was pharmaceuticals. They were going after Pfizer and others to try to get COVID vaccine. So they continue to do this. And as I said, it's sort of a more efficient way of doing it. And so they've stolen billions of dollars, particularly in cryptocurrency. They are estimated to account for more than 50% of the total losses arising locally from cryptocurrency hacks. By 2019, they'd already stolen $2 billion in cryptocurrency. Last year, they stole $1.7 billion in cryptocurrency. And just to put that into perspective, their total legitimate international trade was 1.5 billion, and their cybercrime was 1.7 billion. So it's just
the North Korean group Lazarus targets bridges in the DeFi world. Normally, a developer sets up a multi-sig wallet that collects crypto from one network, then has a wallet on the other chain issue assets on the other chain. This is not a very secure method for moving tokens, but the majority of DeFi platforms use this method. That's why innovations such as Flare, ICP, Burn to Mint are the new ways to bridge assets in a much more secure and robust way that leaves less room for error. Know thyself. Know thy enemy. 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. If you enjoy content like this, please consider joining my Patreon or my Ghost site, dmjr.ghost.io.